And he looked me dead in the eye and he was like, don't tell me how to do my job. If you think you know all about politics, you should go do it yourself. I have had a few of you reach out, ask me because you saw something in the news or you searched my name on the internet. And yes, it is true. I ran for the New York State Assembly as a Republican in 2012. I'll tell you all about it and why I think it matters to you and me as Uber drivers and what I learned about it. Hi, my name is Levi, and this is the Daily Drive. Now, okay, this is not going to be like a political type of podcast. I got so much to show you. This is really, really good. But I think this is helpful for you. First, let me break things down for you this way. This is probably the most important thing that I think matters to you and me as Uber drivers and what I learned as running for office is that there's a difference between politics, policy, and economics and campaigns. Let me break it all down for you. A campaign is probably what you and I are most familiar with. Running for office, going out there, making ads, doing all of this stuff, you name it. That's a campaign. A policy is like a law, good or bad. It just is what it is. It's factual. This is the law, and that is a policy. And the economics behind it, or let's talk about politics first. The politics itself, politics, that word, that's like the negotiation of the policy. So you campaign, and you have an idea of a policy that you want to implement, and then there's like backroom dealing and negotiating in the world of politics. Maybe, you build that factory here and I'll give you the money there or whatever. Then economics. Economics is the measurement of that whole thing, of basically the policy itself. So politics, we kind of put all that under that umbrella. So when we talk about certain things, like if I talk about the economics of should rideshare have a minimum wage and that government policy type of thing, there's a lot of things going on there. There's the campaign to kind of get that happen. There's the politics that's going on behind the scenes. Then there's how the policy, the law may be written, and then the economics, the outcome of what it is. For me, the thing that's most interesting, and the reason why I like this subject to some extent about any of these subjects, is I like economics. I like to measure the results of the policy. So instead of saying, I think I know what's right, I like to maybe have some sort of way to measure it. And that's what I studied in grad school. That's what I really found fascinating. Now, how did I even get involved in politics and stuff like that? And let me tell you, I'm not involved today. I could care less. I'm really not that passionate about it. Okay. This is like 2011, I think, something like that. And my good friend at the time, he's still my good friend today. I just haven't heard from him in a little while, but Michio, he was in the world of politics and I was in the world of marketing. And I was giving him all this advice. I remember, we would hang out, whatever. I think we were having coffee when this particular conversation happened. And I was telling him, this political campaign should do this and this political campaign should do that. And that's how they should market their business and their brands and all this kind of stuff. And he looked me dead in the eye and he was like, don't tell me how to do my job. If you think you know all about politics, you should go do it yourself. And he actually reached out to the Republican Party and connected us together. And the Republican Party originally thought I might be a good candidate to run for Congress. That's absurd. Just thinking about it is absurd. And the reason why they thought I'd be a good candidate is because I had military experience and I was an accountant in the military. So I understood fiscal policy and those things. And then I went to graduate school for economics. And so I studied that. And so I had that kind of background. Then I got involved in entrepreneurship and launched some businesses and stuff like that here in Central New York. And so I kind of had all that republicanism, And so they were like, hey, run for office. But what had happened was we got redistricted and so they were like, wait, before you do that, we're going to have a Republican as your congressperson where you live, and we don't want you to primary this Republican. His name was Richard Hanna, and so they said, well, why don't you get in the game? Why don't you run for the state legislator? And there's a Democrat, Bill McGee was his name, and he is represents my county and a couple of counties actually in the state legislature, and they're like, just go against him. And so I did, and I ran not on particular policies. I mean, there are things I care about. From there was hydrofracking. I was really had some interesting policies about. I really like the idea of paying teachers more and giving them more responsibility over the budgets. That was kind of an interesting thing. Dairy farming is huge in my area, so I had some policies toward that. There was a lot of whatever issues. It's definitely when you run for the state legislator, it's not like the same as running for president. Right? So the president, they're talking about immigration law, and they're talking about abortion and these highly contested, war in Ukraine and stuff like that. When you're running for the state legislator, it's a lot more like this street needs to get paved or whatever. But it was fascinating, and here's why it matters, and here's what I learned from it. Just really quickly. Number one is I learned not to shy away from hard conversations. I think when you go knocking on 6,000 some odd doors and you go out there and you get a chance to just meet so many people, oh, making sure my video is recording. I thought it wasn't recording there for a second. Um, yeah, you get to have some really intense conversations. Like people get really fired up about politics. I mean, look, and just the fact that I'm even making this video, you're feeling something inside, maybe, right? The fact that I say I ran as a Republican gets you, whoa, it could be like yay or whatever. It just people care a lot about it. I don't think we should intentionally bring these conversations up in our Uber, but I also learned how to handle them really well. Not, um, I get fired up like anybody else, but I learned how to like at least express the idea that I want to express and hear the other idea. Because I think that's the thing that's most important is that most people have different opinions than you. And if you hear their opinion, then you get a chance to like learn from them. And you may not necessarily agree with them, but you can learn from them. And because I drive in college towns, a lot of people, pretty progressive and leftist, and they'll definitely tell me about their positions on issues, and I'm down for it. I'm down for it. I don't debate with my Uber passengers. I don't try to tell them they're wrong. But a good example would be, quite frankly, my Tesla. I think the Tesla gets both issues or both sides of whatever issue fired up. On the Republican side, let's say, it's a green EV, right? It's a electric car. Well, they drive a Ford F-150, and they're like offended to some extent that I'm driving an electric car, like I'm saving the planet. And so, there's ways to have a conversation about that. And then on this side over here, there might be, the person that hates Elon Musk because Elon Musk supported Trump's reelection, right? And Elon Musk has his issues, and I get all that. So they're going to let me have it on that side. And I think what I learned the most when I ran for political office and what's helped me as an Uber driver is to just be a good listener, understand their position. And that's what I did a lot of when I was running for office. I would go knock on a door. I would, introduce myself, and there's like 10 issues, whatever those 10 issues might be. And they would ask me questions about all of them. There were like 9 of them. They were really, Levi, that's good. I'm going to vote for you. But that 10th issue, we didn't agree for whatever reason. And they would be very adamant, and they would be in my face about it. People get fired up about it. And I just learned to like, I don't know, just listen to it. Doesn't mean I agree with them. Doesn't mean we have to, hug it out or anything like that. But I think just having empathy that people have different perspectives, on life really helps. And I'm talking about the world of politics, but it could be anything. It could be anything. You could like American football, and I could like soccer, right? Conflict. And I think it happens all the time, in our lives. And it happens a lot, not all the time, but it happens as an Uber driver. And I just learned to listen and have empathy for my passengers. I think that's probably one of the most important things I learned, again, from politics. The second thing that I learned is hard work. It was so hard knocking on like, I think I knocked on like 6,000 doors over that summer, hundreds of doors a day. And just like every day, just get in my car, take some flyers, go knock on some doors, and hand to hand combat with somebody at their house. It was really hard. It was tiring to go out there and do that. It was tiring to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it reminds me of Uber driving. I think there's a little bit of like, if you're going to do 20, 30 rides in a day, like, well, I've done this maybe 50, but whatever. There's a repetition to it. And it's physically demanding, no matter what anybody tells you. Driving an Uber for 12 hours is god awful tiring. It's exhausting. And then having the same conversations over and over and over again, how to open the Tesla door. Yes, I'm from here. No, I was raised in Hawaii. I mean, I have the same conversations like 20 times a day, it seems like. But that's what it reminds me of as being a running for office in politics. It was like the same conversations all day, every day, the same thing. And and while I'm expressing to you that I get kind of tired of it, I think to my passengers, I just try to re-engage it. Yeah, sure, I'll tell you my umpteenth time while I'm an Uber driver. So there's that. I think the final thing that I learned about politics and what I learned is that, yeah, it is. I don't know if it has anything, maybe it does have anything to do with Uber. I don't know. I'll express it to you anyway. What I learned is that it is as bad as you think it is. I left that my loss with a really bad taste in my mouth. You know what I mean? It's like, ugh, it's gross. The the political parties, Republican and Democrat, it's really gross. Um, there was like lawsuits, while I was running for office, like people were doing like illegal things. And I remember like being part of different lawsuits during that, and it happened like all over. Like I don't know if you know this, like almost every political campaign, there's like law people breaking the law to try to get people elected. It was very common. It was what the issue of mine was getting fake signatures. Um, the Democratic Party was working with the Independence Party, I think is what it was, to get the Democrat incumbent on the ticket twice because you can run under multiple political parties, and they just got fake signatures. You have to get like 500 or 1,000 signatures to get on the ballot, something like that. And they just went around and faked it. And so I can't remember what happened, if the guy went to jail but it was like my thing was it was common. It was common. Like when I was talking with other people running for assembly at the time, and I had this really horrible conversation. The Republican Party, um, you know, brought me in to like kind of train me on the ways. And my whole premise of my campaign wasn't really this political issue or whatever it was. I was really fascinated by the like reducing spending. I thought you don't have to raise as much money and spend as much money to win an election. And so that's kind of what it was. Well, the Republican Party said they told me I had to raise $25,000, and if I didn't raise $25,000, they wouldn't support my campaign. It was like why 25,000? It was just a big number. It was like about fundraising. And the thing about being a Republican, especially in the New York State legislature at the time, and maybe it's still like this today, I don't know. It's like the Democrats have a super majority. Like they govern the state, they can do whatever they want. The Republicans have no say in what goes on in New York State governance. Now, maybe in certain counties and municipalities, Republicans have a little bit more say, but in the state government, Democrats run everything. And yeah, so the Republican Party was like it was all about raising money, and it was like for a losing cause. I think the way I felt about it was it was like raising money to be around wealthy people and kind of make those connections. It had nothing to do with the issues. It had nothing to do with changing New York for the better or for the worse or whatever. In those things that you and I might be passionate about, it was about power and money, if that makes sense. And I think you and I both knew that. I mean, I knew that going into it, but seeing it firsthand made me feel really gross. Like every person, the first time you get involved in politics, you want to do that. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. I'm going to be the good guy. I'm going to make good things happen. And you come to realize that whether your name's Clinton, Trump, Sanders, Harris, Biden, I don't know, whatever. Pick your person out. They all have like personal agendas. They're all using the power of government, the trillions of dollars that the federal government can print out, whatever, to enrich themselves. And it's gross and ugly. And that's how I feel about politics. But yeah, I lost. I guess what happened? I knocked on like 6,000 doors. The Democrat that I was running against, it was great. I'll leave you with this funny story of what happened. The guy I ran against, Bill McGee, he had this. He represented the farmer because now we live in a farming district. So he's a Democrat, but he's like a blue. He's like a Republican Democrat. I don't know if that makes any sense. Whatever, conservative Democrat. But he was really old, like Biden old, like Trump old. If you, yeah, and he wasn't in really good shape at all. In fact, he's notorious for falling asleep in meetings and stuff like that. Um, and God bless him, he passed away many years ago. But we were on stage. We were talking to the teachers union. So I wanted to get teachers to vote for me. So I presented a my case to help teachers earn more money, take control of the classroom, whatever. I can't remember what all the issues, but whatever. It was the teachers union. It was me, Bill McGee, and a senator of some kind. We were all three of us were on stage. It was like a roundtable discussion or whatever. My my man Bill McGee fell asleep on stage. He made no coherent argument, nothing. It was just like the guy was just not even into it. And I got up there and I was like, okay, here's my 10-point way to help teachers make more money, have more authority in the classroom, get more power over the budget, help students, whatever. And I thought I made at least an intellectually fair argument. Um, and they still endorsed him. They still endorsed the teachers union because the unions support Democrats and whatever. It was all just gross. The whole thing was gross. Yeah, so there you go. So if you search my name on the internet, if you go scroll down pretty far, you might find some articles. I don't know how a couple of you found it and sent it to me, but yes, I did run for the assembly as a Republican 2012. Yeah, it was 2012. Oh, kind of was like 13 years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. It really does. Yeah, there you go. Real quickly into your questions. Matt from Drivers Coast to Coast. He made a comment on one of my videos when I was talking about the robo taxi, and he asked me if I was engagement farming. Yes, of course I'm engagement farming or whatever. I don't want to just produce content that's boring, but I'm not making false arguments. I think, and I don't think that's what he meant. I don't know. But for Matt over at Drivers Coast to Coast, it's on X. Him, Lynn, and Chuck every Monday night at 7 p.m. Watch it. It's great. Or listen, get engaged. It's good content. But yeah, I do make content that I think is entertaining, and I'm looking for engagement. I want people to engage with the content, so I try to propose not necessarily controversial subjects, but subjects that I think are interesting. Yeah, I think there's so many. I think there's so many Uber, Lyft, gig work content out there that I'm looking for something that intrigues me. And what intrigues me is like, I don't know, like, not controversy, because I don't necessarily care for controversy, but having like an alternative opinion. So when it comes to robo taxi, my initial reaction was the reason why I bought a Tesla. I was thinking like, hey, I know that I bought hardware for with my Tesla Model Y. I wanted to put my Tesla on the robotaxi network. But when I started to dive through all the numbers, I'm thinking like the car really doesn't make that much money. So when I'm out of the equation, me as the driver, if I take a wage, let's say I pay myself $20 an hour, there's like little to no profitability left, like my car. And I'll do a deeper analysis on it because I'm really fascinated by this. I think people naively think that Tesla is going to run rideshare better than Uber and deliver that profit back to Tesla owners. And I just don't see that being the case. And on top of that, I think what's really going to happen is there'll be a flood of autonomous cars in the marketplace. And so with supply increasing, that means price decreases, which means margins will be even tighter. And there'll be so many like mega taxi firms. Like, again, I had a conversation with a taxi firm. They're going to buy 1,000 robo taxis when they can. Your one little car is not going to be able to compete in the small compressed margins that those companies are going to be operating. So that's what my thing was. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to be a fleet owner, then yeah, maybe you can make some money, but you're one car on the network. I don't know. I have to do some more analysis. I'm willing to do that. So, but fair question, Matt, fair question. Yes, I am engagement farming. I'm not trying to do clickbait. I'd like to have a conversation. I think I had one other question here. Oh, that's right. Andy asked if acceptance rate matters. No, it doesn't. In fact, the people that I know that make the most amount of money, the ones that do the best with surges, Matt in Boston, the one I just talked about, lower acceptance rate, the better. Your ability to have patience, declining unprofitable or bad rides or whatever it might be, waiting for the most profitable ride, you'll have the best per mile, per active minute profitability. So your acceptance rate doesn't matter. I think what a lot of other contrarian positions are, the position that I might take would be, if you don't take any rides in any given period of time, you make $0. So if you need money, you're going to have to at some point in time accept a ride. And that ride may not necessarily be as profitable as other rides. So there's like this tug of war between the ability to just be parked and not taking any rides for a long period of time, and people that only have a limited amount of time that have to accept something the hours that they work, if that makes any sense. So, but your acceptance rate does not matter in your relationship with the apps. I know drivers who have a 1% acceptance rate and they're not kicked off the app. I think the apps will get really frustrated with you if you're having a high cancellation rate. That's a big issue, I think. So I think I would watch that. Just accept the rides you want and then do them. If you're going to do them, you're going to do them. And I think the apps also expect you to be a safe, professional driver. So if you are unsafe and you're reckless as a driver, and or you treat passengers without being a professional unprofessionally, that could negatively affect your relationship with the apps. Wow, I got that off my chest. I don't talk too much about my past, and so I appreciate you guys listening. And I don't know, those are always good stories to share, though, I guess. My name is Levi. This is the Daily Drive. My fellow drivers, I want you to be safe, healthy, and happy, and know that I'm cheering for you. Be well. Bye.